So you want to record, well, you're going to need a microphone, and there are many to choose from. Some are expensive, some are cheap, some are condenser, some are dynamic, some are ribbon, or some other technology. And the prevailing advice is that you should just get the best microphone that you can afford. Well, I think that advice is rubbish. Why is that? Well, the word best is poorly defined. What do you want? What is best? Do you want a flat microphone, the best, the most linear microphone to do measurement stuff? Or do you want something a bit more colored to give an interesting sound? There's some really colored microphones out there and they sound really great for very specific applications, and they could be absolutely best for the application that you want it for. And then the second part of that, best that you can afford, where you're just going to blow all of your money on one single microphone and then you can just record one thing in mono. What is this terrible advice? If you're interested in recording, sooner or later you're going to encounter a drum kit, and then you're going to need way more microphones than just one. If you're recording a demo or something not serious or something intentionally vintage, maybe you can get away with one or two microphones on a drum kit. But really, if you want a big, fat, massive, stereo, modern rock sound, you're going to need something like at least 7 or 8 microphones. You're just not really going to be able to record it sensibly unless you've got that kind of microphones on hand. So, in my personal opinion, I think the best thing to do if you want to get some microphones to start recording is to just buy a kit. And there are some great drum microphone kits on the market. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. Now, I personally own 2 such drum recording kits. I have this one here from Sontronics, which is condenser based. And I have this one here from Avantone, which is a mix of dynamic and condenser microphones. So we're going to take a look at this one in today's video. This is the Avantone CD MK7, and for full transparency, they sent it across for review, but no money changed hands. It's a mix of condenser and dynamic microphones. So it comes in this case, which is this kind of like vintage looking case, like a trumpet or one of those vintage Fender amps. You've got like the stripy kind of thing. You're getting a bit of a moire pattern on the video, but obviously in real life, it's like just a nice stripy looking vintage case. And inside you have dynamic microphones here. We've got in this row at the top, we've got dynamic microphones for the close mics. And then in the middle here, we've got 2 pencil condensers for the overheads. So they're small diaphragm condenser microphones. And then at the bottom here, you've got all of the clips. So all of the microphones in this kit are isolated on shock mounts. So they're floating on rubber bands. So that means they don't pick up rumble from the floor, from vibrations. So that's not just like a truck driving past or something like that when you're recording. It's actually way more important for drum recording, because often a drummer will keep time with his left foot on the hi-hat, for example, and you get this yoop, 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 yoop come through on the recording of sometimes even the overheads. So this entire kit retails at $799, which is cheaper than one single small diaphragm condenser microphone from Neumann. So some people might be thinking, but so what? I don't want to record drums. Well, you don't have to record drums. You have a bunch of different mics. People think you have to use the mic for specifically what it was designed for. No. Here's the kick drum microphone. This is probably the least suitable microphone out of the entire kit here for recording vocals. So, let's record some vocals with it.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, 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 get around, round, round, I get around.
Now, in my estimation, the only thing that sounded bad about that was my singing. The microphone itself sounded just fine, despite the fact that it's the kick drum microphone, which most people wouldn't normally use to record vocals with. Now, let's record some ukulele. And how are we going to do that? Let's record it with a stereo pair, for example. The stereo pair of overhead condenser microphones? No, let's record it with a stereo pair of tom microphones. Sounds good to me. And of course, you can use them for what they were originally designed for, recording drums. And here's a sample of me playing drums with these microphones as well. So let me know what you'd rather have in the comments down below. Would you rather have one single expensive condenser microphone, or would you rather have an entire box of microphones, 7 in this case, for the same price, or in some cases even less money? What we can also do in a future video, if anyone is interested, we can compare the sound of the dynamic based Avantone drum microphones. All of the close microphones are dynamic and just the overheads are condenser, whereas the Sontronics kit that I also own, they're all condenser microphones, including the close mics. They don't have shock mounts like the Avantone microphones, but they have a bit of a different sound, and it's maybe an interesting comparison if anyone wants to hear that. I think these are a bit more expensive. And if you want to buy shock mounts and stuff like that, it's definitely going to be more expensive to get 7 microphones from Sontronics rather than the 7 microphone kit from Avantone. But they do have a bit of a different sound. And if anyone is interested in that comparison, then we can do that in a future video as well. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I've got some really cool content coming up. I've got a full free online course on compression coming up. And I've got some other interesting things that you're not going to want to miss out on if you're into recording and music production in general. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I know many people who watch my channel are not subscribed. So hit the subscribe button and I'll catch you in the next video. Welcome to the secret ending of the video. A while ago, I made a sarcastic community post starting with cracked plugins and ending in "therefore the Beach Boys used auto-tune." Now, obviously, that is not the case. Auto-tune didn't exist back then. And back then, I don't know exactly what they were doing in the studio, how much multi-tracking was involved, how much they sang those harmonies live, and then maybe just doubled a couple of things, or if they did the whole thing multi-tracked. I don't really know. But I know that they didn't have auto-tune, and they certainly didn't have that much stuff available to them back then. If you had a couple of outboard EQs and compressors, and maybe a plate reverb, you were pretty lucky back then when the Beach Boys were recording that song that I sang earlier in the video. And the reason why I was writing this post was to kind of poke fun at the people in my comments who were boasting about how they have gigabytes and gigabytes. And in one case, I think the guy said he had terabytes of cracked software and cracked plugins. And they were saying about their hundreds and thousands even of cracked plugins. And I'm just thinking, why do you need so many cracked plugins? Like, I've been a professional mastering engineer for almost 20 years. And if you look at the plugins that I have that I use on a regular basis, all of which I've either purchased or are free, I use maybe 6 or 8 or something like this. And some of them now are my own plugins. I've replaced plugins that I was using previously with my own stuff. And so now I'm like, I think it's not more than 10, definitely, but thousands of plugins? I couldn't even remember the names of thousands of plugins, let alone know how to use them all. And really what I was guessing at is you don't need all of this stuff. Back when people were making the best music, you had just a few tools available. You had a compressor, a EQ, if you were lucky, and a plate reverb if you were lucky, and then the rest of it was basically just mic pre's and some faders and a tape machine with a few tracks. And it wasn't until later that you got 24-track tape. When the Beatles were recording Sgt. Pepper's and that kind of stuff, they were on like 4-track tape, and maybe they got 2 machines at the same time. Then you had 8 tracks, because then you could either record all 8 at the same time, synchronize up, or you can bounce between them and do bouncing down. That's where when you want to render out your track in your DAW and it says bounce, that's originally where it came from. But anyway, the Beach Boys obviously didn't have access to auto-tune back in the day. So what you're hearing on the record is them singing. And you can also see live recordings of them singing as well. Maybe it's not quite as refined as on the record, but it's still pretty good. And when you listen to anyone else singing with these harmonies like barbershop quartets and stuff like this, and they're just like sounding bang on and they're doing it live and it's all captured with a camera microphone or just like one microphone or a stereo pair, I can really appreciate how amazing they are at singing. And the Beach Boys, how fantastic singers they were to nail all of those harmonies objectively without using autotune. We know because it didn't exist. Now, if you listen to what I sang earlier in the video, you're probably like, wow, this guy can sing. It sounds alright. Doesn't sound, okay, maybe it doesn't sound the best, but it sounds alright. Yeah, because I was using autotune, and that's what we've got access to nowadays. I'm not a singer, so I'm just winging it by using autotune, and I can somehow like halfway cobble it together so it sounds semi-convincing that I'm singing it. I'm not singing it. If you listen to the original without the autotune, it sounds a complete mess. It's awful. And I thought I'd play that now because, as you know from watching my channel, I don't hide things. I'm quite transparent. And I've got no problem you listening to my very awful original non-auto-tune take because it's hilarious how bad it is. And you can just hear how powerful auto-tune is. I'm actually using Melodyne, which is one of the plugins which I've purchased and one of the plugins that I use when I'm working on vocals, which I don't really do that often because I'm a mastering engineer, not a recording engineer predominantly. But when I do work on vocals, sometimes I'll crack out Melodyne. So that's one plugin that I've purchased that I find useful. So I really feel that people should just buy plugins that they need, learn how to use them. You don't need terabytes of crack stuff. Why? I couldn't even remember all of the plugins, let alone use them all. So yeah, just for fun, I thought I'd play you guys what it sounds like without auto-tune, and then you can just think, wow, people must have been really talented to sing this stuff without auto-tune back in the day, because that sounds like a heap of crap. So let's end the video with the raw take, because it's so bad.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, 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 get around, round, round, I get around.